Hey, what's going on, guys? For today's episode of magazine review, in this case, not a MOOC review, it's just a normal magazine. This is the September 2023 issue of Armor Modeling. I have taken a look at a previous issue of Armor Modeling, I think once before. This one is actually going to be primarily focused on just actual armor modeling. I think the issue I looked at before had something else was to do about like paint or something like that. But anyway, so a fairly recent issue here with Umi Shironome right there on the front. So that's cool. And there will be a photo section in here with her in as well. I mean, obviously, like I said, the majority of the modeling in here is going to be all about like actual armor modeling and like scale, like military scale modeling type of stuff, which is not normally what I cover here on the channel. But a lot of the techniques and things that you see done on some of the models in here for armor modeling, of course, can be applied to different mecha models, particularly stuff more like Votoms or Maschinen Krieger, stuff like that as well. So if this is not something that you're particularly interested in, I am doing this weekend, rather than doing just one MOOC review, I'm actually going to do two videos and make it kind of a double feature, because I know that this may not be up everyone's alley. So we will also be taking a look at a issue of Hobby Japan here, a recent issue of Hobby Japan. I think this is November, so even more recent. So this is the November issue of Hobby Japan. So check out that video. I'm planning to put the videos both up at the same time, so you guys can pick and choose. If you want to watch both or one or the other, you can check that out. But all right, so getting into the contents, the theme for this month is tools to help you get the job done. Whole tools to help you get the job done. So that's what is going to be like kind of the main topic for our like main segment here. It's going to talk about different tools, which is really cool because, like I said, especially when it comes to tools, there's a lot of crossover with different tools and techniques, things that you can do with those tools that you can use on different other types of modeling, not only just armor modeling. But so right here on the front, we've got, this is the 9th issue, as in September of 2023. Umi-san right there on the front. On the back side, an advertisement here for an M1A1 tank model kit here. And you can see that this is actually issue number 287 of Armor Modeling, and the MSRP is 1,500 yen, which is, I gotta say, honestly, a little bit high for a monthly magazine that's just staple bound. It's not even like a thick one, so it's not really even that particularly hefty. It's about 120 pages, and being a monthly magazine, a good portion of that is just gonna be like advertisements, so not the best pricing. Getting into it though, here we've got an advertisement right off the bat for some tools in particular. Mr. Rotary Sander here, a couple of Mr. Hobby tools there, the G tool, it's like a drill, and electric sanding tool. There are a couple different things. Monthly tanks trivia, something I would be absolutely awful at, but that's all there in Japanese. But it looks like it's more just like some information, like unique, interesting information about the AMX 13 tank there, I guess. Not necessarily like a quiz trivia, but here we got what looks like a really interesting model hobby shop there. A faithful reproduction of their country's own armored vehicle, and the iconic metal track brand will be closing its doors. I guess so, a company that makes these metal track parts. Interesting. Okay, yeah, a lot of stuff that I just have very little background experience and like knowledge about, so you'll have to forgive that. But here we've got our table of contents. And then a little bit about the cover girl, Umi Shironome, but we're going to see her a lot more later on after the kind of tool section here. So here you can see kind of the breakdown of this particular first segment in that, like from page 6, it's going to be section 1, section 2 is from page 22, section 3 from page 33, section 4 from page 40. And the modeler who's working on this particular build. So it's going to basically, it looks like it just go through the build here of maybe this one particular tank model and like a lot of the different steps using different tools and everything. So a lot of familiar, recognizable products here, like just regular Tamiya extra thin cement, nippers. You have this Koremo Ususume, which like this one is also recommended for like, I think this is the Vortex from Gun Primer. So what's called like that, like sucks the dust from when you're sanding or whatever. And there's another one here, which is rather than like sucking the dust horizontally, it sucks it vertically. You just basically work above this and it just sucks it down into what is essentially just like a vent. But we got a couple other things over here, like sanding sponge, sanding stick, a scraper, like it's like a metal scraper, which is going to work basically the same as like a ceramic knife or something just to scrape mold lines, a drill, and just a kind of standard X-Acto blade is sort of what it looks like there. I like the fact that the little character illustrations here are by Shunya Yamashita, who does a lot of really great character illustrations. You may recognize some of his work in terms of like model kits from the Good Smile company or the Max Factory, Minimum Factory kits. There's a lot of those that are designed by or at least illustrated by Shinya Yamashita. All right, and without spending like too much time to really look super duper carefully at every single tool and every single technique that's going to be covered in here, because as you guys can see, there's a fair amount of stuff. But there's some interesting bits here, just more drilling. Looks like here maybe just using like a caliper to check the size of this particular part, but then drilling it out. Cutting that down. This is kind of interesting too, something that I've seen done but not really very much, where you just like coat the surface of the model with glue and then you brush it with something hard, or you can use a toothbrush. There's a lot of different things that you could use for this, but then once the surface is coated with like glue, cement, then you can just like texture it basically, because what the glue is starting to melt the plastic on the surface, and then you can just like use, again, this looks like it's like a wire brush or something like that, like a wire paintbrush or something, to basically you can just add texture to it in a number of different ways. With that, I'm not sure if I've ever really tried it, but it looks like certainly it would be a really good technique to use on a tank model kit, of course, an armor model. Another thing that you can do is, of course, just use putty. I have done that a number of times, just using putty on the surface to give it some texture. That looks very nice. These down here are, it looks as a coating sheet. I'm not really sure what that is. I guess it looks like it's for the interior. And again, just unfortunately not being too familiar with armor models, I'm not really sure what this coating sheet is, but I guess it's just for adding this coating onto the interior of the tank there. You guys can let me know more about like what's up with that. Or it's on the outside. Here you can see it up here after cutting it out. I guess it's just attached on here to the outside like that. But how does that ultimately end up looking on the actual finished kit? Interesting. I'm not sure. All right, I'll have to check more into that. Here we got, looks like to fix a sink in the plastic, so you can see like a little depressed little sink there, using some putty to fill that in. I'm sure you could also use a number of different products, other like glue or something. Adding some other details here with the drill and like some little like spring coils. A lot of different small tools, basically just for like refining a lot of like the small details on here. Just because from the kit being molded in the molding process, some of the details may not be quite as sharp as you want them to be to look properly realistic. So there's a little bit about that. A little bit here also about how to make like realistic looking cloth by using some epoxy putty and like rolling that out to make it flat. And then using some Vaseline to make sure that it doesn't actually stick to anything. And then you can like press it on there in a way that you want to make it look like cloth, and because of the Vaseline it won't actually stick onto there. Then you can remove it and wash the Vaseline off, and you can have it as like a very realistic looking cloth piece. So that looks cool. Also using some epoxy putty to make a zimmerit texture here on that front part there as well. That looks cool. More using putty up here for some weld marks kind of around some of the joints between the metal. Looks like here's a kind of whole demonstration about how to make the welding mark looking realistic there. So that's interesting. Here's some more about using some like resin detail parts. It looks like these are maybe just like how to cut out and apply some of these smaller, really tiny detail parts here, resin parts. So some more tools, looks like over on this side. And then a feature here about model casting laboratories. Some of the different unique tools like a filing blade. So it's just like a blade like you would use in your knife, and it looks like a knife, but it's actually like an actual like metal file. So it's for doing like really, really sharp detail sanding and filing that you would need for like in between the fingers on like a resin character kit, or like actually in a seam line or something like that. There's a lot of reasons why you might need a very, very thin file. And there's also a scriber here, which is it's sort of like a compass, but it's attached onto like this apparatus that you can like move it along the side of a part, and it'll scribe an identical line into there. You guys have probably seen advertisements for stuff like that. More tools highlighted over here, a bunch of different stuff, all kinds of different things that look really interesting. Some specialized toothpicks. That's probably one of the most useless tools I think I've ever seen, but I don't know, maybe it's more useful than I'm picturing, but I can't imagine it's all that useful. And so, wow, there's a ton of stuff in here. Just continuing on here to the next page, I mean, you can see like every single picture is highlighting something different. So it's not necessarily like, here's step 1, 2, and 3 of using this one particular tool, but it's like, here's one step that you can do using this tool. Here's something you can do using this tool. Here's something you can do using that tool, which looks to be like glue in this case. But there's a lot of stuff packed in here, which does all look to be really quite useful. Not necessarily for like beginners, I think. Like a lot of this stuff, like if you have very little familiarity with some of these tools, it may be a bit intimidating. Just you may want something. I just think that you may want something a bit more detailed than like I'm saying, having one photo to show like, okay, this is how you do this with this tool. You might want something a bit more detailed, perhaps. It would be understandable. But a lot of great techniques in here for if you're, if you've been doing modeling for a little while, and not necessarily, again, like only armor modeling, but this could apply to like machining Krieger or Votams, anything like 120 scale, 135th scale, to Gunpla as well, possibly if you kind of are working on like a larger scale or just kind of depending on what you're wanting to do with it. But if you maybe have been building a couple of model kits already and you're kind of looking for a little bit more advanced techniques, there's a lot of really cool stuff in here, little tricks that you can do. Using some valuable tools. So here's the elephant Panzerjäger Tiger. Interesting, showing the before and after. So a lot of really interesting little improvements around on the surface there you can see. So a lot of really cool stuff. Even getting into some of the different refining tools and methods that you can do for the character figures included as well. So like different detail parts, like for the hands, how to refine some of the details around on the figure itself, adding tiny, look at how small that is. It's like a less than a millimeter size, like little dot of plastic that you're basically adding on there for a more refined button detail. So really interesting stuff. And then this is, I believe, 1/35th scale. So yeah, it is 1/35th scale. So this character figure, I mean, like just the top half of this character figure is probably about like that big. And so it's a lot of detail added in there on that, including even like these little metal parts, it looks like, added there for, again, just refined detail. So that's the end of that color section. It looks like we have a couple of pages here that are going to be in black and white with some more photos, some more advertisement here for some different like Dremel heads that you can use for like your rotary tool. Dremel is like the name brand that a lot of Americans will probably know. But of course, some of these different other modeling companies do make their own rotary tool. That's all going to work pretty much exactly the same. You don't necessarily need a particular name brand one, but got a bunch more stuff here with some different advertisements for some different products here, it looks like. And getting back to some more color photos, here we got some more interesting products like this like wood stand that you can use to like put your kit up on while you're painting. And that's kind of interesting. Like a little character model stand. It's basically just like a little wood dowel that you could just makes it easy to hold in your hand. That actually would be kind of good. I should actually pick up something like that for myself. Just something cheap and simple that then you can just drill a hole into and just just set like a pin into to hold the little figure while you're working on it. It's actually quite useful. And then one of these here, which is just like a weighted stand, which is like a articulated arm on it that you can kind of tighten, and that again just holds the kit while you're working on painting it or doing whatever on it basically. Now it looks like we're getting into some more kind of just like painting products here. Also just kind of how to apply your initial stages of paint. It looks like you can just kind of paint on the primer, being a little bit kind of thicker surfacer there, just again to add some more detail to it. Just kind of different ways to go about the actual painting process of the kit now, and some useful tools for that. So of course there's going to be airbrushing and using some of these like pastel pencils, which are basically sort of like color pencils, essentially to draw on here like the pattern of how you want to do the camouflage in this case. And then it looks like the camouflage is probably then airbrushed on, but just drawn out with pencil first, I guess, just to maybe set where the lines are going to be. Some other useful painting tools like an airbrush holder, like these little disposable paint cups. It makes it easy because then you don't have to worry about like cleaning up. You just toss them when you're done into the trash. Different types of masking tape and cutting mat that you can use for cutting very specific shapes and difficult shapes out of masking tape. So you just like have this particular cutting mat that has grooves in it. You just like lay your tape over it, and then it makes it easy to cut these like half circle shapes and other different kind of angled shapes out of your masking tape. We've got some sponge up here. They also make these Nazca branded little sponge for doing your sponge chipping. You can see some like sponge chipping demonstrated here with some different tools and products. But man, yeah, there is a lot of stuff in here. It's very interesting. Now we're getting into weathering products, and not only like the weathering products themselves, the paint, but like some of the application products for some of these weathering tools, and a lot of really cool stuff. So you can see there's like stuff for applying pigments, for applying some of these like Mr. Weathering products on there. And then for the display base as well. So then we get to the display base, different things that you can use, just like your kind of wood block base here like that. printing off some kind of decals and laminated film to make a sort of black here for it, which looks really nice. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. It looks like we've got a kind of historical segment up here next, which again I'm sure is very interesting if this is what you're into, with a whole bunch of text, some old photos there. It looks like old Japanese military vehicles in that particular segment. This one here, this would be German stuff here, it looks like, and British tanks. This would be actual model kits again now. And this looks like now we got the actual finished product of what's been worked on there for the tutorial segment, for the kind of feature. They're showing all the different techniques and tools and everything that we've seen for like the first chunk of the magazine there. Now we have the finished product. Looks very, very cool there. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, a lot of really interesting things in here, but this being something that I'm just not very experienced in the world of armor modeling, but there's definitely a lot of interesting stuff in there that I can see would be applicable to other different model kits, like more so what I'm into personally. But all right, now we've got our section here with Umi Shinonome and her gigantic electric sanding tool. There's what that is. And so there's going to be a section here where I guess there may be some substance to this other than just being a photo section, but it's primarily just going to be a photo section in here. There's like Umi's favorite tool section right here, which shows like a couple of her different, I guess, supposedly personal favorite tools. If they are in actuality, I mean, who knows? It's probably just an advertisement, but as we've got here for the middle section, and I think that might be the extent of it, just like those other couple of pages, and that might be really kind of all there is. It does sort of look like that, interestingly enough. All right, but there you go. That's for the cover girl section. Now we've got some more tank illustrations here, and these I'm sure would be very helpful, like if you're doing tank modeling, armor modeling, to use as like reference guides for how the markings and camouflage are done on some of those. And then after that's done, I think for the second half of this, we might see some more features like this of some featured builds. This would be the British Special Air Service Jeep, for example. But we're probably going to see a lot more advertisements now that we've gotten through the majority of the actual like educational part of the magazine here. And these are all advertisements for different products, and these are for different books here. For example, over on this side, here we got the Type 16 MCE VC5 with winch, for example. This one made by Tamiya. Tamiya is probably going to be the most common of the brands that are making model kits that are going to be featured in here, for example, but I'm sure there's others. Model Kasten would probably be another one, I'm sure, of course. We got an advertisement for the Blink modeling book of works, original figure works by Yoshiki Fujimoto. I definitely recognize the works just from Twitter, but that looks like a really, really nice book. I'm definitely a fan of his works. Like I said, I like seeing them when they come up on Twitter. It'd be cool to have that book for the collection there as well. All right, then we got these look like some real world photos. Again, great for reference material if you're working on model kits of these particular vehicles. It's great to have, actual real world photos of some of those. This one looks like a 1/6 scale resin kit here, obviously, of the Aphrodite 1 Plus, I guess is the title of it, but really cool kind of bust model, as it doesn't have like the leg parts, it's just only the upper body there, but beautifully painted and really nice presentation, nice photos and everything for that. That looks really nice. And then it continues here onto the next page. We have some more photos, including some work in progress photos on like how the face was painted in particular, and the body there, the clothing and everything. That looks really, really nice. Here's the Plastic Angels Volume 104, it looks like. A Shunya Yamashita original illustration here, which I'm not familiar with what that is. Is that just like, just like this particular illustration, that's it, is volume 104, and maybe like there's been a different Shunya Yamashita illustration in like each of these, in like every issue of this magazine? I'm not really sure. I'll have to look into what that is, because like I said, I'm a fan of Shunya Yamashita's art style and illustration style, so I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. Book review over here of some different, it looks like tank armor modeling books. And yeah, I think for the last bit here, it's just going to be different advertisements. There's probably a lot of interesting stuff. Here's a little thing about MiG, and there's probably interesting editorial sections in here as well, text about different stuff, but all being in Japanese, and like I said, not being my particular area of expertise about like armor modeling and military modeling, scale models. I'll just kind of give you guys a brief run through some of these sections, but still some really nice modeling to see in here. For example, this is like kind of possible layouts, planning your layout for a diorama. These look like some awards, maybe from some competition. That's really cool. This armor model made to look like it's been underwater for a long, long time. Super duper rusty. It's been sitting underwater. That's really interesting. Kuniya's method of replicating realistic texture here on a character model figure. Again, I'm sure this is probably like 1/35th scale or something very small. Yeah, it's 1/35th scale. So kind of brief little painting tutorial here, step by step on painting that character figure. And we're going to have some more character figure painting here. It's always interesting to see, because of course that's applicable to other different models, like again, like Machining Krieger and others that are going to be in similar either 120 or 1/35th scale models. A lot of that same painting style can be applied to a lot of different stuff. So a few other different tank. I keep saying tank. Sorry, I know it's armor, right? It's the proper verbiage, but a few other bits here at the end. It's a pretty unique looking one there. And I think we're just about to the end. So there's a little bit here about advanced groundworks, a little bit more kind of similar like what we saw at the beginning. More kind of tool techniques here, basically. But that is going to just about do it. There's a few like really interesting things here. Just again, just about like using wire and like really small little detail bits that you can do to add detail onto kits. So very interesting. Illustration here at the end, which looks really nice. That's fun. And some more tools over here from Argophile. I've heard of Argophile. I don't think I've ever tried out any of their tools though. Relatively new tool company, I believe, but I'll have to look some more into that. It looks like they might have some interesting stuff. But there's an advertisement for some of their tools there. And that's it. So that's it for this issue, guys. What did you think of it? What did you find anything interesting? Like I said, I'll have to go through again and kind of take a look at some more of these different techniques using some of these tools here, because like I said, although I don't do armor modeling necessarily, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I could apply to some of the different modeling that I might be doing. So cool stuff. Thank you guys for checking out the video today. If you'd like to check out some more paints and tools and supplies, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store. Got all sorts of cool stuff there for you guys to check out. And as always, thank you guys for liking the video, commenting, subscribing. It all helps out a lot. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys. Until next time, hope y'all have a great day, and I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.